We are in the range. So this is the range that we use in cadets. So there's space for 2 people to fire. Towards the end, just there where you see the H, is where the targets would normally be. I have one to show you, one second. So these are the ranges that we'd use. Can you see it? So we just normally pin that up and people would do target practice. So for example, this would have been a 10 round grouping. And when we're doing it, to score points, for example, we're looking for a grouping that's like at least ½ an inch. So this would have been good, but then they kind of went off. So yeah, this is what we do here. You know when something's like a skill, it's like an art, like for example, playing an instrument. So the more you practice, the more you get into it, the more you realize, okay, if I control my breathing like this, then I'll get a really good grouping. And the satisfaction when you get a good grouping. So because like maybe 2 years ago I would have said no, because I wasn't good at it. But with practice, obviously after a while it gets you and you're like, yeah, I like it now. I'm good at it. I can practice and get better. So I do enjoy shooting now, yeah, I do.
This is Simone from London. Simone is a member of the Air Cadets, a voluntary youth organisation sponsored by the Ministry of Defence. The Air Cadets are part of the Cadet Forces, along with Army Cadets and Sea Cadets. These 3 cadet forces work with over 94,000 young people in the UK. The MOD states that the aim of these cadet forces is to provide challenging and enjoyable activities for young people and help them to develop valuable life skills. But is that the only aim of the cadet forces? Do they play a role in recruitment for the military? And what is the purpose of having cadet forces in school? In this film, we speak to cadets themselves to find out about their experiences and reasons for joining, and also hear from young people who are challenging the presence of the military in school. The cadet forces are just one of the many ways the military engage with young people in the UK. The armed forces make over 11,000 visits a year to state schools and colleges to give presentations, career advice, and run activities. On top of this, the current government has announced a programme called Military Ethos in Schools. This includes plans to create up to 100 new cadet units in state schools by 2015, as well as the Troops to Teachers scheme, which fast-tracks former soldiers into teaching roles in half the time as other graduates. It is also funding military-led alternative education schemes for disengaged pupils. The Department for Education states that the aim of this programme is to help improve people's self-discipline and teamwork skills. But at the same time, the Ministry of Defence states in their 2011 Youth Engagement Review that one of the main aims of the cadet forces is to recruit people into the armed forces. Is recruitment also one of the aims of the new school cadet forces? The UK is the only country in the EU that allows people to join the armed forces at 16. Research has shown people who join the army at a younger age are more likely to suffer from mental health problems such as depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. Research has also shown that those who join the army at 16 were twice as likely to die in Afghanistan as those who enlisted at 18 or over. Will the increase in cadet units in schools encourage more people to join the armed forces at a younger age? Woodcraft Folk is a charity that works with young people, delivering social education through art, drama, debate and outdoor activities. Each year the young people come together to choose an issue that they take on as a national campaign. Their current campaign is to get the military out of schools.
We're talking about a campaign that we're running, which is trying to get the military out of schools.
We've been looking at the risks of joining the army and some of the techniques that the army use to try and recruit people, like cadet schemes, or actually now schemes that the cadets are in schools permanently, and how these give us a one-sided view of what the army's really like.
If the cadets were in school, in my opinion, what they would be I feel they would be sort of going for raising awareness of the cadets and trying to get people to come to cadets. That's why, youth establishments or whatever go into schools. And if they want to get them to cadets, the idea of cadets is to get them, not to get them to go into the army, but to, I don't know if it's a negative word, but condition them into that military way of thinking.
We have at our school got the Air Cadets, which is a sort of youth group where people can do, like, learn to fly gliders and things, that doesn't force, but kind of encourages people to go into the army. We've had an assembly from them advertising themselves, which in a way is fine because that is a legitimate kind of youth group that gives people skills, but we haven't had assemblies from any other kind of youth group, so they're being advertised and kind of pushed onto us more than any other group that can offer you very similar skills and experiences.
It's definitely through secondary school. I didn't really, on a large scale, have anyone coming in who was a vet or a nurse or something else, you know, saying, this is great, do this, you know, this is what you want to do, we need more of you. If you look at it from a job perspective, no one ever came in and did that for me, whereas I know, like, in the recent years at my school in Hebden Bridge, I used to go to, my younger sister's still there, they've had military coming in and out and telling them how great it is and how they should do that, and it's not their choice, really. It's not fair.
When they came to my school, they were basically showing us all the stuff that we could do. Like, they were saying, you get to fire guns and stuff, and you can fly planes. And they were talking about all the different types of it, and cadets that there are, because there's like sea cadets and air cadets and stuff. And a lot of people that signed up for it were people that didn't necessarily do well at school as well. I think that was another thing.
I do remember in my old school, like, some of the kids would just go to cadets and they'd miss loads of lessons and stuff. And it was just kind of accepted that, oh, they're not going to do higher education or anything, they're just going to go to the army.
The big thing about it that made me want to do it is they said, it looks really good on your CV. That's what they were saying. And they're saying that's what people look for. And that's why loads of people signed up for it to have on their CV.
Oh, I am in the cadets and in Woodcraft, but I don't think there should be something from separating from them two, because I believe in peace. I don't like wars. But at the same time, I am getting qualifications from the army, so it will look really, really good on the CV. And if I want to get into a college, I might be like, if they can't decide between two people just because I got extra curriculum, they might choose me over someone else. It looks good on your CV. That's why they chose it.
The army can be great for some people. We don't want to be completely against anyone doing it if that's what they want. I think the issue for us is how the army will sell themselves, only giving one point of the view, and it doesn't completely explain all the risks, the dangers to people's mental health. All these issues aren't properly explained to people when they join up, and also the recruiting in schools we have an issue with.
Having spoken to the young people from Woodcraft Folk, we thought it was important to speak to cadets themselves. We travelled to South London and visited an Air Cadet squadron to find out exactly what they do, why they joined, and what their experiences have been like.
Well, tonight is the recruitment open night, so we've had a presentation upstairs to tell us basically all about what we do as cadets, what you can achieve by coming to cadets, and then now we're doing command tasks, so like leadership exercises to get the recruits into like the whole spirit of leadership and cadets in general. To be honest, I didn't know much about cadets at all, but my cousin came here and a girl from school, so they were like, oh yeah, there's cadets going on in Battersea, and I used to live around here as well, so I joined, and then I just found that I really liked it, and I stuck to it.
I was sitting in the school library, and one of the guys in my class, like in my form tutor, said, you can go here and you'll shoot and you'll fly and you'll get loads of qualifications. And me and my friends sort of turned around like, what were you talking about? And he said, cadets. We were like, we didn't know we could go to cadets. We thought that was something that happened somewhere else. So he said, yeah, it's just a couple stops down the road. We're going to go on Tuesday. So we went along with him. Like a big group of us from my school went along.
And why did you become an Air Cadet?
Just because of how it was advertised and what we heard about it and what we could do, like the opportunities that we knew would come by joining. So like they said, you could go on flights, you can learn how to handle a rifle, you can, go on all these camps. Obviously you can't do that just by going to school, so just join for the opportunities. It's made me have a much more positive view of the military because of what kind of things they've offered Air Cadets, and in turn they've offered me and everybody in my squadron. So when they're handing scholarships down and giving people like 12 hours of flights and things like that, that's from the Air Force. That's giving me a positive view of them because they're doing something directly for me.
It isn't a recruiting thing. It's one of those things where it's a youth organisation. You come here, you have fun, make friends, you get things out of it, but you don't have to go. So that's one thing that a lot of people here that don't want to go into the military find comforting about it.
Okay, and do you have any interest in joining the army when you're older?
I'm thinking about it. So I'm off to uni in September, and after that, hopefully, when I get my degree, I'll either join the RAF or something as either a legal officer or in the RAF police.
People join and say, why do you want to join? And they say, because I want to be a pilot. Why do you want to be a pilot? Because my dad was in the RAF and I want to be a pilot in the RAF as well. Or I want to join the Army Air Corps. just because of that vibe and that atmosphere, I did look into it a bit, and I was thinking what I would do if I ever did. And at first I was thinking I might be a medic, because obviously I'm into the sciences, so I thought I could do that with the Army or the RAF. But more so now, because I just finished like a flying scholarship with cadets, that made me get much more interested in flying and aviation. That's kind of opened the door more to me saying I might want to join one of the forces as a pilot kind of thing. It's just like the more opportunities you get, the more you can see yourself fitting into it.
I think the best thing must have been Nijmegen. Like, I went last year to Holland. It's the best experience I've ever had, because I was on a base in Holland, a military base with troops from Sweden, from Holland, like itself, so Dutch ones, America, Canada, British soldiers themselves completing the same thing that I was completing. And we'd have general discussions with them. They're like normal people, but you'd talk to them about their career and they give you loads of information about it. And they just told me about all the great experience they've had with their friends and all the things they've done, like Afghan. I mean, one guy was like, "Oh, are you coming next year?" I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, I'll be on tour, but I'll see you the year after." So it's just like you meet people that are actually on tour, going out to Iraq and Afghanistan. And I mean, obviously you got both sides of it. They're not going to be like, "Yeah, it's amazing," because they're just like us. Like, any job has its bad aspects, but they could say basically a lot of positives.
We're not directly sort of fed information about it. When you join, actually, there's like a syllabus that you need to complete to be a first-class cadet, because there's these classifications that you can do. And in that syllabus, you learn about the history of the RAF. So that's the most that you're definitely taught about the RAF. We do these nights where we will just have discussions. Somebody brought up homeless people and people that had been in the Army or the Air Force that were now homeless, and they had post-traumatic stress disorder and they needed help. And how the public view them and how they're looked after they've come back from war and they're in that state. But that was really brought up by one of our cadets, because he brought that up into discussion. We were speaking about, just in general, the Royal Air Force, what happens afterwards, what they do when they've retired, and someone really felt strongly about that.
It was clear that Simone and her fellow cadets have benefited a lot from their membership of Air Cadets. It was also clear that attending Air Cadets had made them more open to the idea of a career in the armed forces. At the same time, it appeared there had been little education from within cadets about the potential dangers of pursuing such a career. Speaking with the Air Cadets and members of Woodcraft Folk left us with a lot of questions. Are the armed forces promoted more in schools than other professions? Will the cadet forces in schools play a role in recruiting people to the armed forces? How much education and information should schools and cadet forces provide about the risks of careers in the military? We approached the Department for Education for an interview, but our request was declined. They provided us with the following statement.
We believe that service leavers can bring unique benefits and experiences to schools and provide an exciting and challenging way for young people to learn about teamwork, self-discipline and respect. Many of them are already transforming the lives of some of the most disengaged and disadvantaged pupils by helping them to avoid antisocial behaviour and raising their educational attainment. This is why we are bringing military ethos into our education system.
We also approached the Ministry of Defence to discuss their youth engagement strategy. When we requested an interview with the Minister, we were told,
"The feeling is that there are better staff choices for the interview. We feel that a senior military figure may be preferable and are currently scoping the appropriate person."
Despite several requests for an interview, an appropriate person was never provided. Our questions are still unanswered. It seems that even though the armed forces have a youth engagement strategy, it doesn't include being interviewed by young people.